Good afternoon. My name is Zoe Sabate. I am a final year student in the Information Technology Department of WSET. My teammates are Vishwa Srirame and Hitesh Sonata, who are also final year students in the Information Technology Department of WSET. We are guided by our mentor, Dr. M. Vijayalakshmi. The topic of our final year project is consumer behavior analysis using user generated content. To break down on this title, consumer behavior refers to an individual's buying habits, including social trends, frequency patterns, and background factors influencing their decision to buy something. Businesses study and analyze this behavior to understand their target audience and employ marketing techniques to influence them into buying more. Basically, a consumer behavior analysis is a qualitative and quantitative observation of how consumers are interacting with an organization. The domains of our project mainly include machine learning, deep learning, data analytics, and web development. The motivation for this project is the vast amount of user content that is generated on e-commerce websites in today's world. Consumer behavior analysis makes efficient use of this user-generated content in helping organizations to provide highly personalized content to their consumers, and also helps them in predicting a consumer's overall value, which can help cluster them into different target groups. We have also made a short product demo of our business intelligence dashboard, which will help viewers gain a better understanding of how our system works. So here it goes. Now that we've seen the product demo, this is the architecture or workflow of our system. Since we have covered all these things in the product demo before, I will be quick about this. First, the reviews are collected from the Amazon's database and then pre-processed according to requirement. Then we proceed on to perform some data visualization to understand the popularity of Amazon products among their customers. Next, we train various sentiment analysis models to extract the sentiment associated with product reviews. And we also build various recommendation systems which are able to provide real-time recommendations to the customers. From the insights achieved from these three features, we study the consumer behavior, monitor the product's performance, and build a hybrid recommender model, and furthermore incorporate these features into a business intelligence dashboard. So these are the techniques that we have used in our project. The algorithms in sentiment analysis models are, first, there are binary classification algorithms, which are trained on various product reviews to understand if a product review is positive or negative. We have also trained four neural networks, which are able to explore more feature combinations than binary classification algorithm, and are hence able to more accurately understand the sentiment associated with a review. They are able to calculate the percentage of positive and negative sentiment in a review, as we will be shortly seeing in the results. Then we move on to the techniques that we use in recommendation systems. Nearest neighbors is just an algorithm which is able to identify a predefined number of neighbors closer to a given product. A priori is a simple frequent item set mining algorithm. Then we perform some deep learning algorithms such as restricted Boltzmann machine. It is a two-layered neural network and has visible and hidden bias. The hidden layer helps in understanding inherent features that are similar between certain groups of products, and the visible layer learns from these reconstructions of features to produce new activations. Basically, in layman term, RBM helps in predicting the rating of products that the customer hasn't bought yet. Then we moved on to build a hybrid recommender, which incorporates the features of RBM, SVD, and collaborative filtering. SVD is a matrix factorization algorithm which reduces the dimensionality of a given matrix to extract general features from it. And user-based collaborative filtering basically finds users with similar purchase interests and uses that information to generate its recommendation. The hybrid recommender combines these algorithms and gives each of them certain weightages and incorporates all the three algorithms features to generate its final recommendations. Then we used community detection with sentiment analysis. Community detection helps in segregating the products into different communities using the k-click percolation method. Products within a community share similar features and have a higher likelihood of being bought together. Furthermore, we also developed an algorithm for scoring the products within a community based on their popularity rank and sentiment associated with its reviews. So we were able to make a real-time application of sentiment analysis as well as turn this algorithm into a top-end recommender model. So these are the results that we obtained from our sentiment analysis models. As we can see, the ML algorithms are able to predict if it's positive or negative, while the neural networks are predicting the percentage of positive and negative. I would like to emphasize on the last review, where the ML algorithm said that it's a negative review, while the neural network said otherwise. They were able to identify that the positive sentiment in the review is more, which we can conclude by reading this review. So here I can say that the neural networks have a higher edge over the machine learning algorithms. So we did the comparison of different sentiment analysis models. Here we can see that BERT is performing the best. This is the comparison of different recommender systems. So here recommender systems are compared based on their RMSE scores. We can see that hybrid recommender has an average of all these RMSE scores. But RMSE and MAE scores are not the only metrics that we use to judge the performance of a recommender system. We also used other metrics such as hit rates, which is our ability to recommend something to the customers which they have already bought, novelty, that is the average popularity rank of recommended items, and diversity, that is how obscure the recommendations are. And we also added some real-time features such as a stop list, which restricts the algorithm from recommending sensitive or abusive content, and a random exploration method, which randomly inserts a new product of the website into the user's recommendation by doing some calculations. This is the demo of our business intelligence dashboard, Envision. This is the landing page. I will be logging in as a test user. Once I log in, I am redirected to the dashboard. As discussed before, these are the three features that we will be providing to the user. You will go through these features one by one. So in data visualization, I upload a data set that I want to visualize. It should be a JSON file. And then I get various visualizations. As this takes a lot of time, I have already visualized a data set here. This is the home and kitchen product reviews data set of Amazon. Here we have various visualizations and some other visualizations, product insights and customer insights. So we move on to sentiment analysis. Here I'll be adding a text and choosing from a wide variety of models. So I'll just give a quick demo. It will give me the sentiment associated with it. As you can see, the sentiment of this review is negative, as it was. Moving on to a priori recommender. Here we will be uploading a data set that this will be preferably a data set of items that have been bought together. Then we provide our required support, confidence, and lift. and then upload it to get an a priori summary, which involves frequent item sets and the support, confidence, and lift associated with them. This also takes a lot of time, so I've already uploaded a file and generated a summary, which I'll be showing here. Here we've got, so the summary is in an Excel format. So here we can see there are frequent item sets and their support, confidence, and lift, and their titles. So this was all that was to our business intelligence dashboard. We have not implemented all the algorithms that we used in our project in this dashboard because our project is more geared towards data science and exploring different algorithms in this particular field of data science. And the dashboard was just an added element to our project. In conclusion, consumer behavior analytics has been in growing demand with the evolution of e-commerce and data analytics in today's world. Customers want to shop on websites where they don't need to take much effort in what they're looking for. Personalized content makes shopping simpler and increases their trustworthiness towards that organization. And we know that trust is a major mediator between social presence and purchase intentions for any consumer. We know that the aim of these e-commerce organizations should be to display optimized and personalized content to the consumer in such a way that he or she is engaged for a longer period of time. Hence, the goal of this project has always been in helping these organizations in facilitating better service to their consumers and in turn adding more lifetime value to their business. Thank you.
Hello everyone, this is Chirag Bilara, and today I'll be telling you all about our project BrainKey. This project was made by me along with Raj Madhesha and Pradali Patil under the guidance of our mentor Mrs. Vinita Mishra. So let's just get started, and first let us know about what exactly was the problem statement and the motivation. So we all know about these spinal cord injuries, we all know about motor neuron disorders, we all know about Stephen Hawking, and we also know about this Stephen Hawking's chair, right? The chair which he used as a mode of communication. So the whole idea of brain key is derived from the functioning of that chair. So in this particular problem statement, we are dealing with people who have physical disabilities and speech disabilities, which can be caused due to n number of different syndromes, like it can be complete paralysis, it can be ALS, or any spinal cord injury, or cerebral palsy, or multiple sclerosis. There are n number of reasons for a person to have speech disorders. So the whole project aims at this particular set of people, and we try to help these people communicate with the outside world using merely their eye blinks. The project aims at exploring brain computer interface, which is a recent technology which has been developed, and the whole aim of the technology is to help the human brain interact with any computing device directly. So the whole project runs around the idea of brain computer interface, and with the motive of providing a means of communication for the people who are unable to communicate via speech. The motivation of the project, as I said earlier, the primary motivation of the project is the possibility of helping a person who is unable to speak communicate. Also, the prime motivation was derived from the existence of Stephen Hawking's chair. Other than that, the new technology of brain-computer interface is also intriguing. Moreover, it opens a new door that allows people who haven't been able to speak to actually communicate, which in order allows them to have some mental growth, even if their body is paralyzed or unable to function. Moving on. So first we'll talk about the architecture of the system. So this is a low-level architecture. The whole system contains only three parts: the human brain, the NeuroSky Mindwave, which acts as the interface, and the desktop application. The NeuroSky Mindwave is an EEG device, and the main function of this EEG device is to get the signals from the brain and transfer them to the desktop application. Why? By filtering them, by keeping them in a certain range. The functioning of an EEG device is shown over here. As we can see, the NeuroSky MindWave mobile headset has three parts. It has the headset, the forearm, the sensor arm, and the ear clip. Now, when a person puts this device on their head, the first thing that happens is that the sensor arm and the ear clip, they neutralize their potentials so that there is no external effect of potential on the potential differences that are gathered from the brain. Other than these, there is also an EMG sensor that is located in the sensor arm, and the purpose of this EMG sensor is to identify the intensity of blinks. This is an essential part of the system, identifying the intensity of blinks. Moving on. So the desktop application interface. On the desktop application, we have two columns and the alphabets are arranged in rows. There are certain help buttons, there are certain provisionary buttons, and there's a list which is generated as the person keeps on typing alphabets. There is also an indicator whether the application is connected to the hardware or not. So how it works is that on the first blink, the person is able to select the row. On the second blink, the person is able to select the side or the column. And on the third blink, the person is able to select which character in that particular row and that particular side does the person want to speak. Then, the working of the system. The system works in just 5 simple steps. First, the application or the system, it waits for the headset to automatically connect to the application. Once it's connected, there is a green button, there's a green connected sign that is displayed. Once it's connected, the headset starts receiving headset gathers signals from the brain and starts sending them to the application via Bluetooth. As soon as the headset starts sending the signals, the application processes the incoming data and filters out the data based on whether the blinks are intentional or not. This is done by the blink intensity measurement that is gathered from the EMG sensor. If the blink is intentional, then an alert is sent to the keyboard, and depending upon which sequence of the blink is happening, whether it's the first or the second or the third, depending on that, a character, a row, or a side is selected. The results in the conclusion here we are talking about. So if the application works perfectly, then the EEG device, when it's switched on, should get connected to the desktop application automatically. On each eye blink, there should be either a row or a side or a character that has to be selected. The patient should be able to type the entire word without any disconnections. The help button, which is a provisionary button, should ring an alarm successfully. The automated assistant should speak out the words that are the alphabets that are being written. All in all, the BrainKey is a project that provides a mode of communication for the ones who are suffering from some syndromes or problems which makes them unable to speak. Also, BrainKey is developed on the idea of brain-computer interface, which has been researched. There are many projects that have been developed in this particular domain. So BrainKey gathers all the good points of those projects, adding a feature on each one of them, and thereby making such a product which is usable, easy to understand, easy to learn, and it does not require any technical assistant at any point. So there are a few unique features that I'll be talking about. First, the three blink character selection. So a user will not use more than 3 blinks to select any character. The alphabets that are being typed will be spoken out. So any person does not need to be near the paralyzed person for them to understand what they are writing. It can simply be heard. There is a user specific dictionary that is generated, and that allows the person to complete the word without actually typing the whole word. The help button, it rings the alarm when it's clicked, so it can be used to generate an alert whether something is going wrong or something has happened. The switch button, it allows you to switch from the main keyboard onto the list of words that are generated. The speak button will speak out the words that are written on the screen, and the customized sentence buttons. So there are four customized sentence buttons that are being provided towards the end of the keyboard. They are complete sentences which, once clicked, the user can customize them. They can keep the sentences that they like or they use the most, and based on that, so forever, suppose the user has to say hello, how are you. The user does not have to type the whole thing. They can simply click on one button and the whole sentence will be spoken. So that was the project, guys. Thank you so much.
Hello, my name is Diya Wadhwani and today I am here to present my project Imagine AR. This is the project I have developed along with Jalaj Lime and Sahil Sahu under the guidance of Professor Smita Jangle. We are the students from Department of Information Technology from Wesit College. I will start my presentation by talking about the problem statement. To build a mobile application which enables user to render augmented scenes in a view. Implement AR technology in such a way that AR technology adds information to users' current environment in order to make an activity or experience more meaningful. Further, shape this technology in education and enhance experience for students. AR technology is something which is very different from 3D models. Augmented reality, the word reality, implies to that the object should be something like in real world. They have shadows, lighting, graphics, movements, also parameters which make them look real. The domain of our project was augmented reality, image processing, 3D model rendering. We were supposed to create a mobile application which is compatible with multiple and as many as possible mobile devices which are available to every person. I'll talk about my problem statement by showing you a video. Over here, we were supposed to create a mobile device. We were supposed to create a mobile application which was able to render a 3D model, a 3D scene which was compatible with the lighting of the room, which was able to detect the plane surface. In this video, you can see we have a table and we will analyze the table and we will render a 3D model. We were supposed to do this in AR technology. Motivation. AR and VR market aviation prediction. Many people have predicted that augmented reality and virtual reality technology will be leading the market in late 20s. More than that, use of mobile phones. Mobile phone is something every single person has. Smartphone applications are thriving in this era. If a person is having a mobile phone along with magnetometer, GPS, camera, accelerometer and gyroscope, he or she will be able to experience his AR. Other than that, AR Core. AR Core is a software development kit provided by Google for developers and engineers like us who want to create amazing products in terms of augmented reality and virtual reality. Now I will show you a video which answered many of my questions. developers.google.com/AR. This is the developer's guide for developers like us, which we are able to find many answers. Over here, I was able to learn how I can, create augmented experiences for a user for the front camera as well as the back camera. This website answered many of my questions. Features. Imagine AR has 2D and 3D face filters mapping irrespective of face orientation. Even if the user, looks left or looks right, if a AR filter is applied on it, it will stay there. Even if user changes camera's orientation, augmented model will be mapped on the anchor point. What do I exactly mean by this point is that if you render a hut or a house on a left corner of a table, if you move around the table, the house will stay there. This is how augmented models are mapped on the anchor points. Imagine AR supports that. Transforming a single LDR frame into 360 HDR frame using a TensorFlow Lite neutral net. This was done to provide a realistic effect. Autofocus on AR photos. Photo quality is something which we cannot compromise. Front and back facing camera support. We were able to create a mobile application which is able to render AR filters on front camera as well as the back camera. Now I will talk about the models, the AR models which we used in Imagine AR. Poly.google.com was a place where we were able to find all our models. I will show you how did we find one. Over here I'm searching for a model of house. I can just type what I need. All these models are open source and free. You can use them, you can modify them in the mobile applications. You are not supposed to be a 3D model, creator or developer. You can just find them for free on poly.google.com. This is where we find ours. This was the basic face model on which we created our face filters. This is the 3D Fox filter which we developed and integrated with Imagine AR. It also works with lightning and it properly gets mapped on the face of the person irrespective of the gender or size or shape of the face. This is the workflow model of Imagine AR. You have to open the application, then you will be provided with multiple options. Do you want to go with a 2D filter? You want to go with a 3D filter, a 3D model, or a scene view? Accordingly, front or back camera will be opened. Later, you can capture and save and share your experience. Before moving forward, I will talk about SceneForm SDK. SceneForm is a plugin provided under Android Studio where you can see your models. The thing about AR Core is that we need multiple things. We need an algorithm to map the face, we need an algorithm to scan the surface, and to do all these things in a one place is a difficult task. But because of SceneForm SDK, we are able to do every single task in just one software named Android Studio. Now I will show you a video on SceneForm SDK. SceneForm SDK. SceneForm SDK is a 3D framework that lets you import and preview assets in Android Studio. You have to download the 3D object, you will be able to view them and how they will actually look. Later, it makes it easy for mobile Java developers to render high quality content for AR apps. You just have to write the code and you can run it. So this is my project Imagine AR. It has four main features: a 2D face filter, a 3D face filter, a 3D model, and AR scene. I'll start by talking with 2D face filter. 2D face filter is just a PNG image which is rendered on the face of the user. 3D face filter is similar to Snapchat, which renders 3D models on your face irrespective of our orientation. 3D model is where you can anchor multiple augmented reality renders on the surface. It works on the plane surface. You can also see I have done it on stairs. No matter what is the edges, they work fine with all, thanks to AR Core. Other than that, I have a AR scene where we were able to render a whole AR scene on the back camera. We are able to do it on the surface of the book, on a table, and we were able to orient and increase and decrease the parameter. So this is basically Imagine AR. Future scope. Proposed project can be used as an abstract model to create mobile applications that supports augmented reality in following industries of education, entertainment, gaming. While developing this project, we came across many problems, but with multiple trial and error, we were able to accomplish all of them. Till today, this project is under development and it is working day by day. Augmented reality is a technology which is not fully developed, it is developing day by day. It was fun and learning to create this project. Thank you for having patience and going through my presentation. Thank you.
Good afternoon. This is Nikita Talreja along with Gaurav Makhija and Mox Manjindani from D20 IT department under the guidance of Shanta Sandur ma'am. The topic of our project is water consumption monitoring in public and community toilets. The domain of our project is IoT. This project is made with the motivation of automating the process of water consumption in public and community toilets. To understand the need of this project, let's first understand the current scenario of community toilets and public toilets. Every family is assigned one yellow card on which details of family like name of the head of the family member, address of the family are written, and backside of the card displays details like month for which the bill was paid by the family. For using the community toilets, a family of 5 members has to pay 50 rupees for each month. Now this is a fixed amount that needs to be paid. All this process is managed by community-based organization. They take care of the facility. The problem with the existing system is people pay more than what they consume. And this is completely paper-based solution. Our system uses Internet of Things to eliminate the current paper-based system. In our proposed solution, in front of every unit an RFID reader will be attached, and each family will be assigned 5 RFID cards. The person who wants to use the unit should carry the RFID card assigned to them. After scanning the RFID card, the data will be sent to database via ESP32 module to check if the previous bill by the family was paid or not, and it will also check if the card is stolen or not. If the card is valid and bill is paid, then only the person will get the water flow inside the unit. This is achieved by using solenoid valve. By default, the solenoid valve is closed. As it gets signal from RFID scanner, the valve will open up. The LED screen connected to wall of unit displays the corresponding message. That is, if the person is authenticated, it will display the family name, otherwise it will display the corresponding error. An indigenously made ultrasonic water meter is used for measuring the water consumption. After the usage of unit, the database will be updated. If the card is misplaced by the family member, they can inform the same to the CBOs and they will block the RFID card by using web portal. So this is the complete hardware connection of our system. Every component is connected to ESP32 module. This acts as master-slave architecture. We are providing web application which is made using Laravel and mobile application which is made using React Native. The web application is made for government authorities like community-based organization and people from MCGM. The authorities can add new family members, they can assign new RFID cards, they can check the consumption of the user and check whether the bill is paid by the family or not. This is the dashboard of the web application. It displays the data in the graphical manner like monthly consumption, the total number of families registered in the system, and the total number of complaints. This page displays the form by using which the CBOs can register a new family. They can also view the feedback given by the users. In mobile application, the user can check the details of the family. They can log complaints. These complaints are verified by the CVOs. By using mobile application, the user can provide the feedback for the units. The user can check for which month they have paid the bill or not, and they can also check the amount of water consumed by different family members on a single day. We are analyzing the daily and monthly consumption of an individual and family. So this was the complete description of our project. Thank you.
Hello, this is Gaurav Makhija. I hope everyone is safe and doing well. This is a video of a representational state transfer on the behalf of my whole group based on community toilets, that is my BE as well as IOE project. Coming to the components and connections that I've used is the ESP32 microcontroller which is used to process the data. This is connected to my home network, that is local Wi-Fi, and here is EM18 RFID reader that has been connected to the microcontroller. Here is a LCD that has been connected using I2C protocol, which displays the message and whatever the data has been received and sent. As soon as the reader scans any RFID card or the number, the ESP32 microcontroller sends the data to the web server, that is my local machine. Here my local machine acts as a web server here. And what it does is it checks for the number in the database. As soon as whatever the state or the message that has been sent by the web server is in the form of JSON, the ESP32 passes that JSON and shows the message to the ESP32 to the LCD that has been used over here. And further, the valve has been opened, and whatever the operations have to be performed are based on these data. As soon as the microcontroller gets connected to the Wi-Fi, it shows the message that is connected and ready to be scanned. I'm using few RFID cards over here. As soon as whatever the data has been exchanged will be displayed on the LCD. Here is the demo of for the same. Now as soon as I scan the card, it sends the my card RFID card number in the form of HTTP request, and sends the server receives the HTTP request and sends whatever the data has been stored or whatever the data has been in the feeded in the database. As you can see, this RFID cards belongs to a Makija family. The one represents over here the everything is okay, which means the bill has been paid and everything has been okay, and you can perform the further operations, that is valve opening and meter reading of the community toilet. Secondly, as soon as I scan the next card, it says that bill has not been paid and the card belongs to the Manchandani family. As soon as I scan the third card, it says the RFID has not been matched. So here's the end of the video. The code and the whatever the microcontroller code and the web server code will be shared along with the video. Thank you. Coming to the web server, I check my own IP which has been configured. It says 192.168.43.99. I turn on my web service on the same IP that is my network IP, and the same IP will be used for interaction with the microcontroller unit and my web server. Coming to the backend service, this is the main code that is used to interact with the database for the IP, for the RFID number which has been received to the microcontroller. Coming to the microcontroller code, I serially begin my data at the baud rate of 9600, and I configure it and connect it to the Wi-Fi network using my Wi-Fi credentials. As you can see, this is the code that is used to send the RFID that has been scanned by the EM18 reader. It sends the request to the HTTP 192.168.43.99 port number 8000 and appends the RFID that has to be checked. It as you can see, it displays the LCD text that is scanning, and it gets the HTTP code that has been sent by the web server and prints the same. And then the pass JSON has been called, which is used to pass the JSON that has been received by the web server. As you can see, the pass JSON method, what it does is it checks for the deserialization error, and it tries to get two parameters that has been sent by web server. The parameters that are the array indexes. It searches for the array index surname and the reason which has been sent by the web server, and it displays the same on the LCD text.
This is the mobile app for the project. This is the splash screen, the login screen of our mobile app. Here I am entering the login details of a user, of a valid user. After logging in, you are taken to the profile screen. Here you are displayed your own name, the address, your contact number, your and other family members. This all data is being fetched from our system database. Then we can go to the daily consumption screen where we can select a date, say May 19. To view the details, and we have the details for the daily consumption of that day. We can also view the bills for each and our family. Here we can see the start date and the end due date of that bill, the amount of that bill, which is 141, and that the bill is not paid. The next screen is the complaint screen and the rating screen. For the rating screen, we have provided 5 push buttons which have their own messages feeded in. One is for poor and 5 is for excellent. As and when we tap the button, the message and the rating would be entered into the field automatically. And let's say we have entered 4-star rating, and when we send it to the in this stored real time and the data has been retrieved. Same is for the complaint screen. We can we can lodge a complaint, let's say water or door broken. We can then from the app open our camera, mobile camera. This is the dummy photo provided by the Android emulator. We can click the photo, select that photo, and then send that photo to the server along with the complaint. And as we can see, it was a technical issue. As we can see that the photo is also saved on the server and it is being retrieved from the request. We can go back to the home screen. So these were all the features. We could lodge complaints, get feedbacks, view the bills, daily consumption, and the profile screen. Thank you.
Hello and welcome to the web portal of water analysis and monitoring system. This web portal is developed by me, that is Gaurav Makhija, Nikita Talreja and Moksha Manchandani from Vivekananda Education Society's Institute of Technology, branch Information Technology for BE project. Coming to the portal, this is the first screen that you will be available to see after the login screen. Coming to the dashboard, this is the whole dashboard, the initial stage. These are the total number of users in the entire system right now. The 3 users are registered to 2 different families that will be able to see in the next thing. These are the total number of complaints into the system and the feedback. There are total 2 feedbacks. This is the graph that has been generated dynamically based on the previous data. This graph gives you the information about every month's water consumption. Starting from Jan, the consumption was 0 to the March, that is 45,000 liters, 15,000 liters, June 2,500 liters, and so on. This is a chart based on the bills, that is the bill paid as well as the bill unpaid. As you can see, 35% of bills are unpaid yet and 55% of bills are paid yet. Coming to the next thing, that is the users. There are 2 tabs, that is add users and all users. First I'll go through the all users. As you could see, there were 3 users. These are the 3 users that are registered into the system with following will register with the family of Makhija and Manchandani. This is their address that are residing in. This is the sample phone numbers that I have inserted into the database. Like this is the random generated data. This is a delete button. You can delete a user from here. Coming to add user, as there are only 2 families registered, you can select the family in you want to add a new user, that is Makhija and Manchandani for now. You can identify the family from the address as well. This is the first residing part of the address. Here you will enter the name, the phone and the email. In case user doesn't have an email or a phone, the portal will skip the section and leave it blank or as it is. Coming to the family section, again there are 2 different tabs. Coming to the all families, these are the families that are registered, the surname, there are 2 surnames registered, the address of the residing family, and the total members, 2 and 1. The data can be searched over here. In case I want to search something like the Makhija family or Manchandani, whatever. Coming to the add family section, this is the surname. I can type in the surname as well. The address lines, the landmark, city, state, zip, and if I click on proceed, now I can add the members of the family, that is the name, email, phone number. I can either click save, or if I want to add a new member, I can surely add to it. Coming to the bill section, this is the current month's bill that has been generated. These are the all bills that are stored in the system. The Makhija that is residing in the Makhija family, which is residing in Ulhasnagar, has the bill amount of 141 rupees, and the bill starts from here up to 30th days. This is the paid and the unpaid, which shows the current status. Like it is a paid. If bill is paid, it shows yes. If no, bill is not paid, it shows next. And again, this is the dynamic search bar. You can search something if you want. Even if you search yes, it will show all the bills that are named yes. Coming to the complaint section, anyone can complain from the mobile app. The mobile app is developed as well. This is the name of the complainant and the message that has been generated. If it states toilet is not clean, here are some images, and the date is like the complaint date which has been generated, like whenever the complaint has been filed. You can change the status here, that is the status is resolved now. That means the complaint hasn't been resolved yet. Again, there is a second complaint from the name Chetan Yadav that states valve is not working, that is generated on 24th of June, and it has been solved. Coming to the feedback section, this feedback again is generated from the app, as well as you can generate it if additional hardware is needed. There are 2 feedbacks. One is from Sham Rochlani, which states the message great, make it more user friendly. These ratings are all dynamic, like there are 5 ratings from 1 to 5 in the mobile app, which these stars are depending upon it. Like if the user gives it a rating 3 stars will be generated, and so on. Coming to the water consumption, this is the live water consumption. As soon as the unit has been used, or whatever the unit is being currently used, it will state the consumption, the family which has used the washroom, the RFID. The family has been allotted 5 RFID cards. In case there is an additional member to it, new RFID can be allotted. The RFID card has a specific number over it, like this is the 3rd number RFID used. The consumption is 5.68 liters and so on. The unit that was used was 1. The start time from 19th of May 5:28 PM, that is 17:28, up to 40 seconds. This is just demo trial that is performed, and that's it for now.